We are going to modify this mold so we can pour some lead and put that jig head in this little dude to modify the hook so that we can pair it up with baits shot out of this mold using 3 techniques in one bait. Yes, indeed, we have much to do today, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed it, this is the Do-It Wacky Jig mold. We're going to make some slight modifications to that I think are going to work quite well for our soft plastic of choice today, which is the 4.25 Epic Flippin Leech. You got the leech thing going on for sure, but when you turn it, I'm seeing a minnow profile, maybe even a little bluegill profile with that shoulder area and then the tail. Can you see it? Can you see it? I see it, and we're going to attempt to make that very thing. The challenge, though, is finding the right hook. Ideally, in my mind, I wanted to put it on a weedless Ned head made with the Victory 10777, but it's too small. But a modified wacky hook with a modified hook, right? My little wooden jig here is perfect. I have already modified said mold for 1/8 ounce. I thought what we would do today is modify the quarter so I can show you what I did. So here's what I've already done for the 1/8 ounce. You can see there I modified it by adding a wire keeper. I'm going to be using this jig for swim baits and the like, so that made a lot of sense. And I think for our purposes today, having a wire keeper on this head is going to make a lot of sense as well. We are going to include a weed guard. JR, aren't you proud of me? The hook that you see in there is this 1/0 Mustad 91-768, which we are also, as I mentioned before, going to modify after we pour the jig. So the modification for this guy is just about as easy as it gets. I've got it set up here in the 1/4 ounce, and all I've done is I have placed that wire keeper where I want it. This is the smaller of the 2 that you can get, and I think it matches up well if you take it right to the top of that bend. From here, all we need to do is close it very carefully. Obviously it won't close the whole way, but once we close it, we're going to take it over to the vise and we're going to squeeze this wire keeper right into this aluminum. Alright, I have closed it as slowly and as carefully as I could so that that keeper didn't move. You can see I have a gap right there in the mold that we want to see closed up. Our 1/4 ounce is here, so we want to get that part for sure really secure in the vise. So I'm going to lay this down very carefully, squeezing back here so I don't let go of that and dislodge our keeper. Of course the hook is in there, but the hook size, the hook fits, so it's going to slide into the slots that are already made for it. We're just forcing that keeper into the cast aluminum here. Alright, that looks good. Now time for the squeeze. We're almost closed up. I think that's probably good enough. We've certainly made a mark inside of here, and it's starting to recess into that spot. So I'm gonna pop it open, and if we need to go deeper with it, which we do just a little bit, I'm gonna take a file to it and finish this up. Alright, before I take a file to it, figure you guys want to see what it looks like beforehand. There you go. It's still there, but can you see how it's just a little recessed? But that's going to be more than enough for us to have an indication of where we need to finish it up, like I mentioned, with the file. And there we have it. A little elbow grease later, and this guy is ready to rock. I'll show you this other side. Make sure you do the other side too, right? It's going to make an impression on the other end as well. A flat edge file, this edge here was really convenient to come in along the hook shank spot and file that part out, because that keeper needs to lay inside of the hook slot or the hook shank slot. right beside it. So you can file that out with the straight edge of a flat, and then I've got this file with a point on it that works really well to kind of get in there and work out the details of that hook. Here we go. Get it right up in there. Doesn't take much. There we go. Yep, looks like it came out the other side. A little bit of flashing, but that is no big deal. And there you go. Cut the sprue off, you know, about 30 seconds or so to file it down. Get it looking nice and pretty. And this turned out really good. The 8-cup fluid bed is out. It is time to paint. Because we're doing a bluegill inspired soft plastic today, I remembered a custom color that I made a while back. I totally backed into it, did not intend to make it, but it ended up being pretty sweet. And I've got an extra here, a little something that we haven't done on the channel yet. It's been around for a while, but I think it's going to add just a little bit of bling bling. First off, let me show you this color. There she is, just a burbling away. Now, on the face of it, it may just look like green pumpkin, but what you are looking at here is a mix of green pumpkin, mango magic, and you see every now and then those little sparkles that pop up. That is disco orange. Don't ask me what the ratio is. I wish I could remember. I just backed into it, literally. So get those three if it sounds interesting. You can mix and match yourself, and maybe you come up with something that you like as much as I did. On top of that, we're also, as I mentioned, going to do something new. I've got right beside our custom color, Chartreuse Flake. That is a clear powder paint with very small chartreuse flake throughout it. I also have up on the wall here red flake, blue flake, silver, and gold. There's more colors than that. These have been around for a while. You can go to Barlow's and find it. The link will be down in the description, just like always. I had never used them, but we're going to finish the jig with that. We'll dip it in the custom color first, and then the last thing before we cure it is dip it in that flake to give it a little extra blingity bling. As an aside, I tried to create these on my own using just clear powder paint and grabbing some of the finest flake that I had. Didn't work. Even the smallest 0.008 or extra fine from Hobby Lobby, it just sank to the bottom in the fluid bed, would not work properly. But all of these clear flake options, man, they perform like dynamite. All right, on to the heat. Only needs about 5-6 seconds. One dip, another dip there, and while it's still hot, into our flake, knock it off. And there's our results. You can see that chartreuse popping through. Got the orange in there. Yeah, buddy. Looking good. I just heard the ding. Let's see how we did. Oh yeah. They look good. No dribbles, nothing. Just turned out real nice. This though is not ready to use. So I've got a Leech, 4.25 Leech that I've already shot for my box. I want to show you what this looks like before we modify this hook. This is what I'm talking about. And maybe this isn't a big deal for you and you could use it right as it sits. See the angle of that hook, how it points back down at the bait at such a sharp angle, at least in my opinion? I would like for that to be just a little bit more parallel with the bait. Obviously, the hookup ratio will be better if we can bend it out just a little or flex it out. If you did happen to hook up in this design, you would be sure to keep them, right? Because you've got that angle. But I prefer maybe to sacrifice a little bit on that side for a better hookup ratio to begin with. Because, you know, you can't keep them until you hook them. So this is what I'm talking about. Simple little jig, 2 nails here to hold the jig head in place right behind the head. and then one nail at the base of that bend. And what I want is for this bend to get up and over that hook, or that nail rather. And that only happens if we straighten out this bottom a little bit and flex this tip back. So I'm using the term bend. Maybe that's a little aggressive. I mean, we are technically bending this hook a bit. Nothing that would affect the strength of it, the reliability of it. What I kind of think of it in my mind is you're just flexing it out just a hair. So I grab it right at the base of that bend, and I just flex it out just a bit. I'm just pulling the head down just a hair. And then I do it again at the top of the bend, just barely flexing it out. And there you go. I just keep working it until it fits. Now I will say, if I was to continue to make a 1/4 ounce size out of this little jig was originally created with a 1/8 ounce, and I can tell it's just a little bit different. It's just a little bit tighter on a 1/4. So I would probably redo this jig for a 1/4 size, label this one 1/8, and use them for both. But let's get it back on this bait and show you what it looks like in comparison. And there you go. You can see it's bent out just a bit, or flexed out just a bit. Now that hook point is parallel, or more so, to the bait. I think the hookup ratio on this is going to be a lot better. And obviously we still have the weed guard there to protect that hook point that's no longer facing down. That's going to be a little bit more weedless facing down. I really like this parallel hook point on a swim bait. I use this same setup in an 1/8 ounce for the Epic Nugget. That's an open pore swim bait. I've also tried it on the Epic Pud, and it looks awesome, works great. So if you're looking for a solution other than the 1/4 ounce beast hook to be able to fish or pour or use those, this solution is really awesome. With the hook now modified in our completed, poured, and painted, and cured jig head, it is finally time to pour some of these leeches, or shoot some of these leeches. But we're going to do that with, as I mentioned before, 3 different techniques, soft plastic techniques, used in the same bait. We're only going to shoot it once, but there's going to be 3 different techniques that we're going to use to get us there. Before we get into the techniques themselves, I figured you guys might want a closer look at this mold. So this is the 8 cavity 4.25 inch Epic Flippin Leech. Got a little brother at 3.25 inches for Ned rigs, and it also has I don't know, a distant relative, a cousin, 3.5 inch drop shot leech, which is pretty sweet too. You can see a lot of real estate to work with. It is not a small bait, which we are going to use to our advantage today. The first technique that we're going to use, we're going to get out the old soldering iron once again. We're going to fire this bad boy up to 275-ish, something like that. And we are going to put a orange little throat, not a full belly, but just kind of an orange throat right there in each one of these cavities. Got a 1/4 cup, just a 1/4, don't need much, of Bait Plastics 242, as we usually use here on the channel. I've also got a new color for me from Lureworks. It's called Blaze Orange. We're going to need this to be very saturated, and the reason for that is when we use the soldering iron, we're only skin coating it. So if it's too see-through, it's going to be even more so see-through. Don't be afraid if you're going to attempt something like this yourself. Those different details within the bait, they kind of need to be pretty saturated, otherwise they're going to get washed out by the main body color. I would normally go, 12 to 15 and see what it looks like. So at a 1/4 cup, let's do 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up doing more. Try that. You never know, sometimes colors end up being really thick, a lot thicker than you anticipate them being. This definitely is not one of those colors. Giving it another shake just to make sure that I got everything off the bottom if it happened to be at all hard packed, because man, that was really translucent for 4 in just a quarter of a cup. So let's load it up. I'm gonna go another 10. That is a lot more translucent than I anticipated, but this is a new color to me. I had no idea. What I have done is I went back to the standard orange, and we're going to use this, see if I can spike it a little bit. I think this one may be a little bit more opaque. So let's try 4 drops of that and see if this does the trick. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. That looks a little bit better, a little bit more opaque. I'm liking where that is. Let's add to that some Barlow's holographic orange. Quarter of a teaspoon, or a quarter of a cup here. I've got a 1/16 of a teaspoon. That's going to be pretty thick on the flake, but I don't mind. Oh yeah, that's not too bad at all. Yeah. So that's good. Alright, as you can see, our soldering iron is at 275. Got my plastic here beside. The mold is propped up on some nuggets, actually. So I'm just going to dip it in here and bring it over and just start to place that orange right where I want it. The soldering iron, if you're not familiar with this technique, it keeps the Plastisol kind of liquidy. See that? How I could move that? There was a piece that was up there. I didn't want it there, and this soldering iron will actually melt it, and you can just move it wherever you want it to go. Orange is in. This was just one of 2, right? Because we got to do both halves so that they meet up, and the belly, that throat area, is orange on both sides of the bait. I wanted to show you, I forgot to mention, it's going to be critically important that we stay out of the vents and that we stay out of the gate where the Plastisol comes in. This is the second half. Obviously that's the gate, right? Sprue here comes in and it enters the bait through the gate. So I wanted to make sure that we kept that orange out of the bottom of that gate so it didn't impede the plastic as it comes in, or if it grabbed the edge of the orange and it would cause that orange to kind of fold over as it came in, then we would lose that throat detail. Secondly, this is the side with the vents. So these are the vents here, the main vents that go to the back, get rid of the air. You can see 2 vents there on the back, and then there's a vent right here at the top, or the highest part of each bait. But if you look closely, you see that ridge? That goes all along this bait. I was asking or talking to Jason and Amanda about this mold, and he told me, are you ready? That's called a ninja vent. It's everywhere, right? You never know, it's everywhere. They go all the way around the bait, which is kind of cool if you like to shoot the bait in one color, cut the bait, put that back in, and then shoot it a second color. A lot of times, if you're not aware of where that vent is on that bait and you put that in the wrong spot, you cut it at the wrong place, you seal it off, and then as the air is pushed towards that cutoff point, and if it doesn't have a place to escape because you cut it in front of the vent, you're going to trap air right there, and it's going to screw up your union right there. You get an air bubble, or they just won't join, they won't seal up. This, because the vent is all the way around, you can cut this bait anywhere you like and it's fine. For our purposes though, we've got to make sure, like that right there, I got to get rid of that. That is orange that is inside the ninja. No bueno. I'm going to go through this thing with a fine-tooth comb. Make sure that all of those vents are clear, make sure that the gates are good, and then we will move on to the tail color. And for that tail, I'm thinking Chartreuse. Again, just a quarter cup of Bait Plastics 242, so we don't need a whole lot of this. Let's start out, we still want it to be opaque though. Same thing, right? We're not gonna have a whole lot in the tail, so we really want it to do its job. Let's go with, I don't know, let's try 6 drops. May need more than that. So I really wanna opaque it up. Yeah, I'm gonna go 4 more. This color is kind of naturally translucent on its own, so it's going to take a little bit of help to get it there, but I think that's it. To that, I want to add another Barlow's. This is .008 Chartreuse, but you can see it's the greener variety versus more of the yellow or the gold type. So I thought this would be a nice addition. Again, bluegill, more of a green hint to it than gold. 1/16 of a teaspoon, just like the last time. Spice it up a little bit. Ooh, yeah, very nice. Now for this approach, we are actually going to use a beaker. Love these things. Small spout on the front really helps you control the plastic, putting it where you want it to be. We're going to use this twice today, once for the tails and another for something else. But quick note on these, the link will be in the description. It's an Amazon purchase. This is 150 milliliters, which I find to be just the butter zone in size. This is heavy duty. It's Pyrex brand. If you don't buy heavy duty, you're not going to have the thicker glass, and you could very easily run the risk of it breaking, exploding, not being able to handle the heat. So look for the term heavy duty. The link that I give you is going to go right to it. There's other options as well. Just make sure that you look for those distinctions. The other deal is there's no handle. Obviously, no handle on this thing. So it gets hot, and these gloves are, in my opinion, insufficient. You need something like this. It's quite a bit bigger. I think this is rated up to like 900 degrees or some crazy thing. So it takes a little bit warmer or a little bit better of a glove to be able to hold on to them and really control them for any length of time. All right, Plastisol is just under 150. Pour it in here nice and slow. Give the glass time to warm up. I'm going to dollop it right in the middle of that tail, and then I'm going to move it around to just kind of coat the inside. Doesn't have to be perfect, we just want to highlight there. Just like that. And then just move it around. There. Just like that. So I'm going to take my beaker and my nice warm gloves and do that 15 more times, right? Got to do it for the rest of these 8 cavities, and then on the other side as well. Then it's step 3. So we have done the soldering iron. We have done the drop and swoosh around, whatever that is called. We have one more technique before we shoot this thing, and that is the drizzle. Back to the beaker. I've got some standard black with blue flake remelt that I just warmed up. It is ready to go. What's a bluegill pattern without some bars, right? So we're going to drizzle across, but we need these bars to be a little bit thicker. We're not going for a perch per se with the V. I'm not worried about that. I just want some bars to go across. So I'm thinking right in front of the vent as a first, or right near that vent. I don't want to get on the vent, that would be problematic. So right in front of the vent, cross that, and then another one after the vent, and then maybe one more. The beaker is going to pour this out in a pretty thin stream, so we may actually have to go over it a couple of times in the same stripe to kind of widen it out, kind of thicken it out. I'm going to start in the back actually, because if it doesn't really work out, I can always pull it up and try again before I commit to the front. If I started in the front and I didn't like it, but it came in contact with the orange and I pull it up, the orange comes up with it. Right straight across, not worried about trying to keep it just inside. We're going to go right straight across. Can you tell I'm stalling? Okay. Irregularities are good. Not worried about that. Alright, there's one. Actually, that one is bothering me, but we're going to leave it. Two. Alright. Three. Whew. Okay, so obviously my OCD is killing me because the space between these two is different than the space between those two. It's going to be okay. Nothing is symmetric in nature, right? Nothing is absolutely even. So what I've done here is subconsciously created something extremely natural. That's what we're going to go with. Well, my fingers hurt, but not from heat, you would think, right? Holding that beaker. No, from going along each one of those stripes as it went over the bait, just like my buddy Nick says, Nick Rundle, you got to pinch it off. All three steps are complete. It is now finally time to create the color for the main body, and for that, we are going with a classic, although a classic color, and even a classic in the bait making world, although new to me to a certain degree, Lureworks Watermelon. I say new to me because I have only ever used the MF version of Watermelon, and this is like, I mean, it's called Watermelon 101 for crying out loud. So let's start out slow. I got a full cup, same thing, Bait Plastics 242. Let's start out with like 6. I want it more on the translucent side, but not so translucent that, I don't know, it doesn't carry itself. Yeah, that's too little. So let's go to 10, 4 more. Still pretty translucent. I want to go just a little bit darker, but we're actually going to add 1 drop of black just to darken the shade. Don't want to get too crazy here. Now is the time to do it, as opposed to say 15 drops, then you add a black and you've gone too far. Tell you what, let's add our flake, and then I'm going to get the old Epic tester out just to make sure. We have done an awful lot of work to get to this point. I want to make sure the body color is where I'm after, because there's no do-overs without a ton of work. Let's go with keeping with the holographic theme that we've had thus far, how about some holographic purple? That was 1/8 of a teaspoon. Oh yeah, look at that. Interacting with the green, and we got some oranges through there. That's cool. Get our tester out. There we go. I think that's what I'm after. So this is 20 drops of watermelon, 2 drops of black. This was the 15 with 1 drop and the 10 with 1 drop. Hopefully this has got it. One thing that I think we do need to add is actually some black flake. So I'm going to pull out the 040 medium size black flake, add that to here, and we will be ready to shoot. Plastisol is ready. I am like legitimately nervous. My heart is racing. There's been a lot of work, a lot of new colors to try to work up, a lot of work to get to this point. So really hoping this works out. This Plastisol is right at or slightly over 350. That's on purpose. I usually shoot around 325, but I want this to be super thin, be able to flow through the mold quickly, easily. I don't want it to push any of our detail around, and a little bit of extra heat will help bond those pieces to it. This is a thirsty mold, so I've got an 8-ounce N2 injector. and I'm sucking up that whole thing. I'm gonna get rid of the air. It takes, I'm gonna say, every bit of 6 ounces. As you can see, I am injecting very slowly. The heat of the Plastisol allows me to do that. That was almost the entire injector right there. And I'm gonna hold, not crazy pressure, I'm just holding down pressure a little bit longer than I normally do, because I want to help all that detail bond to this body. It is entirely possible, and some of you may already be thinking, Adam, aren't you going to get a bunch of cold cracks between the detail and the body color that you just put in there? That is possible. Carefully opening, things stay in place. Okay, all right. Nice, nice. I like how wide these bars turned out. Look at that tail. Ooh, the tail turned out really nice. Throat's okay. Thought it would blend a little bit better. Let's take a hard look here. I am seeing tiny evidences of cold cracks. When you can see the edge around the detail and that hasn't really blended in with the rest of the body, that's a telltale sign. Things like this. See how I can see the edge? See the edge on all that? More so than the back end of this one. See how that one's nice and smooth, just kind of blended in? It wasn't perfect, but that's okay. We've got plan B, people. Relax, it's gonna be okay. I'm really just trying to talk to myself right now. I'm gonna get the hot plate out. We're gonna put these on the hot plate. We have to be very careful doing so, because if we overdo it with the hot plate, then everything melts and just becomes one big blob. Okay, here's where we are. I've got the mold on the hot plate. It's set to 260-ish. I'm only gonna put it on there for 10 minutes. It's already been on for a few, so I got about 7 minutes left. I'm gonna then flip it and only do 5 minutes on that side. So, I did what I said I was gonna do. Didn't work. So I increased the temperature. Still didn't work. So then I thought, you know what? The heck with this. We're just gonna send it. And I put it on 350 for 10 minutes per side. That's 20 minutes at 350. And still, the cold cracks were evident. I had almost given up hope, and then the clouds parted, and it came to me. A heat gun. Yes, indeed, the heat gun will melt those edges down, get rid of the cold cracks, pull it together, but you lose maybe a little bit of that fine detail with the ribbing, but at this point, I didn't really mind. So, I hit it with the heat gun, and as soon as it got a little jelly, I would flip it over and put it on the other side of the mold and then press it in to try to get some of those ribs back. Lo and behold, we have a workable bait. I've even put it on our custom jig head. There she is. You see I rigged it vertically. It definitely helps to have that hook point pointed in the direction. Since we flexed it out a bit, this is on a 1/4 ounce head, as you can see. Nice little tail action. Profile is going to be sweet as it's down in the water, you know, just popping along, looking like a minnow the whole time. See what I mean with losing some of those striations, but you know, the cold cracking is virtually gone. These are 100% fishable, which is the next step in the process. So I'm gonna let these sit overnight. Hopefully it doesn't rain tomorrow, and then we're going fishing with our new creations. It's the next day. I have arrived at the fishing location, which is a new one for me. Check this out. I don't know about you all, but that is looking quite fabulous to me. It's the tail end of a river right before a dam. I hear there's muskies in here, so I'm gonna have to come back with some bigger baits at some point, but we're gonna throw this guy around, see if we can't get bit. Starting out with an 1/8 ounce just to get started. I don't know how deep it is here. Like I said, never been here before. So if this doesn't get down to the bottom fast enough, we can swap out. It's crazy how it glides. I see it hit the water and then my line shoots off because it's just swimming and gliding on the way down. That is really cool. Even swims back with a little bit of action, especially in that tapered section and then the bulbous tail. Very cool. Oh, dang. Well, one down. Oh no, I didn't bring any extra line. Idiot. Well, that's disappointing on many levels because I don't know that I have any line for leader material. The mission just got a little bit more difficult. Well, let's go down below the dam. I think I've actually heard that this part is better anyway. We're gonna need all the help we can get because I don't have a leader. And we need the current to kind of cover up the high-vis yellow. Let's just try this little eddy. Multiple current, get a little current break. Maybe they're just sitting up in here waiting for stuff to come down. Well, crap. I casted that one right into a freaking weed. 2 down. All right, well, having lost 2 in both of my 1/8 ounce, we have moved on to the quarter. I'm gonna go back up to the calmer water. It's not that much deeper, but it's definitely not as shallow, and it definitely didn't seem as rocky as down below the dam. Let's just chuck this thing out into the middle and drag it along. Goodness gracious, I want to come back here with a swim bait. All right, let's get a little unorthodox here. I'm actually going to try to swim this. So maybe it's dumb, but I can't help wanting to swim this thing on this lower end. I know. 1/4 ounce weight. Got even more working against me, but I don't know. I just want to try it. Start swimming it as soon as it hits the water. Oh, there it was. Did you guys see that? Ah! Oh, come on, baby. Stay hooked. Get in here. Yeah. Woo! Whoa, he is beat up. Largy. Hey, hey, hey. Swimming the leech, huh? Yes! Let's get him back in the water. Woo. Ah. Well, who knew? Swimming the leech. Uh-huh. Fooled that one. Well, we had some success at our new water locations, so I thought we'd come back to the old tried and true, see if we can give Maple another shot. Last time with the wolf hair tail spinner, it wasn't in the cards, but I'm feeling extra confident given our success already with this special leech. So I went to Walmart, got my goodies, gonna get a leader on the beast, and we're gonna go after it. The sprinkle is definitely starting to pick up, so we may be on borrowed time here. One thing I wanted to do with this bait is flip some docks with it. So that's what we're gonna do to end the day. Yeah, there's another. There's a little guy, but he had to have it. The leech strikes again. That's two. Well, no more fish were caught after that one, but still, 2 fish using 2 different techniques, 2 fishing techniques, caught on a bait that we used 3 different techniques before even shooting. So really 4 techniques on that section of baits. I call that a win. It was not without its hardship, its turmoil, its difficulty, but we stayed the course. We thought creatively, we overcame, and we caught fish. Guys, thanks for coming along with me. This was quite the journey. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I do appreciate when you guys log on and give me some love, so thank you for watching. And until the next time, I'll see you guys in the shop.